27 Don't mind me. I'm just dead. Arya awoke to her doorbell ringing. Except it wasn't her family's normal doorbell chime. It was American Idiot by Green Day. When had her parents changed that? She threw back her duvet, slid on the blue-flowered, fur-lined clogs she'd bought in Amsterdam, and clomped down the spiral staircase to see who it was. When she opened the door, she gasped. It was Allison. She was taller and her blonde hair was cut in long shaggy layers. Her face looked more glamorous and angular than it had in 7th grade. Ta-daa. Ollie grinned and spread out her arms. I'm back. Holy. Arya choked on her words, blinking furiously a couple of times. Where have you been? Ollie rolled her eyes. My stupid parents, she said. Remember my Aunt Camille, the really cool one who was born in France and married my Uncle Jeff when we were in 7th? I went to visit her in Miami that summer. Then, I liked it so much that I just stayed. I totally told my parents about all of it, but I guess they forgot to tell everyone else. Arya rubbed her eyes. So, wait, you've been in Miami? You're okay. Ollie twirled around a little. I look more than okay, don't I? Hey, did you like my texts? Arya's smile faded. No, actually. Ollie looked hurt. Why not? That one about your mom was so funny. Arya stared at her. God, you're sensitive. Ollie narrowed her eyes. Are you going to blow me off again? Wait, what? Arya stammered. Allison gave Arya a long look, and a black, gelatinous substance began dripping out her nostrils. I told the others, you know, about your dad. I told them everything. Your nose. Arya pointed. Suddenly it started seeping out of Ollie's eyeballs, like she was crying oil. It was dripping from her fingernails, too. Oh, I'm just rotting. Ollie smiled. Arya jerked up in bed. Sweat drenched the back of her neck. The sun streamed in through her window, and she heard American Idiot on her brother's stereo next door. She checked her hands for black goo, but they were squeaky clean. Whoa. Morning, honey. Arya staggered down her spiral staircase to see her father, dressed only in thin, tartan plaid boxer shorts and a sleeveless t-shirt, reading the Philadelphia Inquirer. Hey, she murmured back, shuffling to the espresso machine. She stared for a long time at her father's pale, randomly hairy shoulders. He jiggled his feet and made noises at the paper. Dad. Her voice cracked slightly. Arya leaned against the stone-topped island. Can ghosts send text messages? Her father looked up, surprised and confused. What's a text message? She stuck her hand into an open box of frosted mini wheats and pulled out a handful. Never mind. You sure? Baran asked. She chewed nervously. What did she want to ask? Is a ghost sending me texts? But come on. She knew better. Anyway, she didn't know why Ollie's ghost would come back and do this to her. It was as if she wanted revenge. But was that possible? Ollie had been great the day they caught her dad in the car. Arya had fled around the corner and ran until she had to start walking. She kept walking all the way home, not sure what else to do with herself. Ollie hugged her for a long time. I won't tell, she whispered. But the next day, the questions started. Do you know that girl? Is she a student? Is your dad going to tell your mom? Do you think he's doing it with lots of students? Usually, Arya could take Ollie's inquisitiveness and even her teasing. She was okay with being the weird kid of the group. But this was different. This hurt. So the last few days of school, before she disappeared, Arya avoided Allison. She didn't send her I'm bored texts during health class or help her clean out her locker. And she certainly didn't talk about what happened. She was mad that Ollie was prying, as if it was some celebrity gossip in Star and not her life. She was mad that Ollie knew. Period. Now, 3 years later, Arya wondered who she'd really been mad at. It wasn't really Ollie. It was her dad. Really? Never mind. Arya answered her father, who'd been waiting patiently, sipping his coffee. I'm just sleepy. Okay. Baran answered incredulously. The doorbell rang. It wasn't the Green Day song but their normal bong chime. Her father looked up. I wonder if that's for Mike, he said. Did you know that some girl from the Quaker school came by here at 8:30, looking for him? I'll get it, Arya said. She tentatively pulled open the front door. but it was only Emily Fields on the other side, her reddish blonde hair messy and her eyes swollen. "Hey," Emily croaked. "Hey," Arya answered. Emily puffed up her cheeks with air, her old nervous habit. She stood there for a moment. Then she said, "I should go." She started to turn. "Wait." Arya caught her arm. What's going on?" Emily paused. Okay, but this is going to sound weird." "That's okay." Arya's heart started to pound. "I was thinking about what you were saying yesterday at the party. About Ollie. I was wondering, did Ollie ever tell you guys something about me?" Emily said it very quietly. Arya pushed her hair out of her eyes. "What?" Arya whispered. "Recently." Emily's eyes widened. "What do you mean, recently?" In 7th grade." Emily interrupted. "Did she tell you, like, something about me in 7th grade? Was she telling everybody?" Arya blinked. "At the party yesterday, when she'd seen Emily, she'd wanted more than anything to tell her about the texts." "No," Arya answered slowly. "She never talked behind your back." "Oh." Emily stared at the ground. "But she started. "I've been getting these," Arya said at the same time. Then Emily looked past her and her eyes grew still. "Miss Emily Fields." "Hello." Arya turned. In the living room stood Baron. At least he'd thrown on a striped bathrobe. "I haven't seen you in ages," Baron boomed. Yet Emily puffed out her cheeks again. "How are you, Mr. Montgomery?" He frowned. "Please. You're old enough to call me Baron." He scratched his chin with the top edge of his coffee cup. "How's your life?" "Good. Absolutely." Emily looked like she was about to cry. "Do you need something to eat?" Baron asked. "You look hungry." "Oh, no. Thanks. I guess I didn't really sleep well. You girls." He shook his head. "You never sleep. I always tell Arya she needs 11 hours. She needs to bank sleep for when she gets to college and parties all night." He began climbing the stairs to the 2nd floor. As soon as he was out of sight, Arya whirled back around. She started. But then she realized Emily was halfway across her lawn, on the way to her bike. "Hey," she called. "Where are you going?" Emily picked her bike up off the ground. "I shouldn't have come. Wait. Come back. I need to talk to you," Arya called out. Emily paused and looked up. Arya felt all of her words swarming like bees in her mouth. Emily seemed terrified. But suddenly Arya was too afraid to ask. How would she talk about the texts from A without mentioning her secret? She still didn't want anyone to know, especially with her mom just upstairs. Then she thought of Baron in his bathrobe and how uncomfortable Emily seemed around him just now. Emily had asked, "Did Allison tell you something about me in 7th grade?" Why would she ask that? Unless. Arya bit her pinky nail. What if Emily already knew Arya's secret? Arya clamped her mouth shut, paralyzed. Emily shook her head. "I'll see you later," she mumbled. And before Arya could compose herself, Emily was biking furiously away.